So, hello everyone. I'm happy you'll join us today, even though our schedule did change and we're now online. And let's go on with it. So, my name is Ioana Cazacu, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about how to shine as a junior in your first job. So, to introduce myself a little bit, in 2018, I landed my first job as a junior game designer at Mojiworks, and we are a startup studio that focuses on making messaging platform games that you can play with your friends. In the 2 years that I've been with this company, I went from being a complete newbie in my first job, being a junior, to being the main designer on the project that I'm in and being entrusted with the health of the project. A little bit about what I've done. We launched Ready Chef Go, a game on Snapchat that went on to have quite great success. And that was all because we had a very good working team. So, a short overview of what I want to talk to you about today. I'm gonna first start with talking about how to navigate your probation period, because having a good probation period kind of sets you for having a pretty good junior experience. And then I'm going to talk about how you can steadily grow and improve in your new job as a professional. I'm going to then move on to how to react when you're making a mistake and what you need to do about that. How do you deal with imposter syndrome, which is fairly common, and we're going to touch on that later. And then I'm going to end up with a few tips and tricks to help you settle in. So, starting off with some probation tips and tricks. I personally haven't done all of these necessarily from the very beginning, and now looking back, I do want to share with you that this is something that it's good to do. So first of all, experiment with everything. Initially, I was reticent to try things that I haven't done before or things that I haven't had that much experience with, because I had the idea that everything I do has to be perfect and I needed to prove myself all the time, which is, not true, obviously. So I encourage all of you to not be afraid to try things that you haven't done before, and be enthusiastic about learning and experimenting with things. You're probably surrounded by people who have a lot of experience in a lot of fields, so absorbing all of that and trying everything is very beneficial for you. Ask for help. It sounds pretty obvious probably for some of you, but I think it depends on your kind of personality, how you approach this. Not asking for help is kind of dangerous, because someone who's more senior doesn't necessarily know what they know. So for something that for someone more experienced would be commonplace, for a junior might not be so much. So ask for help as much as you can, do your research, and try to keep up to date with what's going on. Seek actionable feedback. It's important that the feedback you get is actionable, and that is something that a lot of people struggle with. Is very difficult to give very good feedback. But I think it's very important that you do seek feedback and you do keep asking questions when someone gives you some feedback on your work. So, for example, if someone tells you that they don't like the piece of art that you've made, it's good to always dig in more into why they don't like it, or if there is something about it that they do like, and they work from there. And it's also very important to talk to the people who are not in the same strand of work as yourself. So, for example, I am a designer, and I find it very valuable to talk to people who are doing people management, or artists, or programmers, in order to get a good variety of feedback. Share your enthusiasm. I think this is very important, because once you've been in the industry for quite some time, a lot of stuff gets quite commonplace. You're used to working on games, you're used to doing all of these things day to day. And when you have a junior coming in, they're usually full of enthusiasm, which is great. So share that with other people, and also share your fresh perspective on the games industry and on the things that they are working on. I'm sure everyone would appreciate it. Learn how to work. Obviously, this is something that gradually improves with time, but it's very important that you ask others how they work, how do they organize their time, how do they prioritize their tasks, and notice other people and what they do in order to be great collaborators for other people. Because once you do that, you can emulate whatever they're doing, and that's going to set you up for success, I think. Steady improvement. This is very important for everyone, obviously, not just juniors. But in the beginning, you tend to be, or I tended to be, a bit more disorganized. I didn't actually know how to set myself goals, because up until that point in time, other people have set me goals. And with this improvement in your career, it's very important that you take ownership of your own improvement, obviously. So first of all is about making good use of your downtime. Now, I do refer here to downtime you have during work hours. Obviously, nobody stops you from using your free time to learn some of this stuff, but I'm talking here specifically about the downtime you have at work. Some of the times in the beginning of your career, you may find that it's very difficult for people to give you work, and then you have moments of break in between. What I'm saying is that you should fill those moments with useful stuff that you can use later on. So reading company documentation is usually very good. A lot of companies have plenty of documentation out there about the way they do things, about their previous project, about their current project, and it's plenty for you to read and learn about. Also, learning software, it's always a good idea. If you know that a new software is into town, you can do some exploration of that. Or if you know that the company is using a software that you're not as good as you would like to be, it's always good to learn software. And also, just doing research is very helpful, because then others can look at your research of, say, current game trends, or a new way of doing monetization or something. And that benefits everyone, and it also helps you learn more about what the state of the current market is. Set yourself goals. This is very important, because, as I was saying earlier, a lot of people would give you feedbacks, but it is very important that you take ownership of what your goals should be and try to achieve those. So the way I tend to do it is every week I take note of the feedback that I'm getting about the way that I work and about the things that I've done that week. And then I try to set a goal for myself for the next week. Say, a lot of people would tell me that I didn't write enough comments on the work that I've done, so they didn't know what stage I was at with the work that I'm doing. I will set a goal for myself for the next week to do more comments and update everyone more. And then I can take that feedback, work on it, and then in the next week, I can see whether or not I have achieved my goal. Have I commented more? Sometimes you will find that it's something very easy to do. Say, I can action upon this and do more comments. But sometimes it's going to be the case of, I want to learn a new tool, and I didn't have any time to learn that tool. So you won't meet that goal. But it is very important that you have a goal and that you keep it in mind for the future as well. Show enthusiasm for feedback. This is interesting because it is part of your self-development and taking ownership of your development. Because feedback will come your way whether or not you show enthusiasm for it. But the reason why I mentioned specifically that you should be enthusiastic about it is because it helps people be more candid with you and more honest. And then you can use that as a starting point for improving. If people can be honest with you, then they're not going to beat around the bush and try to phrase things in a certain way that won't harm you. Aim to self-manage more. What I mean by that, it's obviously trying to prioritize the task inside one of your tickets or whatever the system is that you're using at your company. But specifically, it's about trying to be self-managing so that when you move on and you're going to have more tasks coming in every day, or maybe even later on when you're going to have to manage other people, you have that order to your workflow so you can extend it to a bigger subset of work. In the beginning, you might find that it's not that much to do. I like to split every piece of work into smaller tasks. So let's say that I have to do some UI. I'm going to break it into the flow of the UI, the information and what's written on the buttons and how the buttons look like. And I'm going to try to update my team as I go on with my work. Very important to self-manage. Making mistakes. This is something that obviously everyone does, not just juniors. It's just how you manage yourself when you do make a mistake that really makes a difference. So obviously recognize your mistakes from the very beginning. If you find that you've done a mistake, it's very good to be open about it. For example, I found that I've made a mistake when I was balancing some numbers, and I was the first one to discover that. So I let my team know, hey guys, I made a mistake. I'm going to take some time to fix it, and I'm sorry if this made it be a bigger problem. Most of the time, people would be very understanding with that because nobody's perfect. But yeah, recognize your mistakes. Learn from your mistakes. Obviously, that's something that we all should aim to do. An easy way that I think about this, though, is that I try to look at the steps of the piece of work that I've done in order to find out what led me to make that mistake, and what can I do in the future to avoid making it again. For example, if I start doing a piece of work and I don't move the ticket or I don't let anyone know that I've started doing that piece of work, one of my colleagues might see that as being something that needs to be done, and then they also start working on it, and then we end up with duplicate of the same piece of work. Now, this is not a big mistake, but it's something that could have been very easily fixed by just updating your team on what you're doing. So that's the kind of thing that's the kind of thought process that you have to go through to find out what you can do better in the future. Let others know if you need support. Now, some of the times, because we're so busy and because we don't know what the juniors know and don't know, we tend to move on very quickly. But if you're not getting enough support from your seniors, definitely speak up about it and say, I've done this mistake. I think it's because I haven't been properly taught how to do this, or I haven't getting enough support, or I don't have the right tools for this. So definitely talk if you need any kind of support. Set expectations. This is probably fairly commonplace, but I want to mention it. It's very good that when you're given a task and you're not very sure about how to do that task, or you don't have a lot of experience with it, you're very upfront about not knowing what to do from the very beginning, so that people have an idea of the kind of work that you're going to be able to do. And then that also helps with getting more support, because if you're upfront from the beginning that you don't know how to do it, people are going to probably try to help you. And obviously at the end, mistakes will happen. They always happen. They happen to the most juniors and more seniors of us. It is very much just how you treat a mistake. A mistake is just a point that you can improve on, and just take it as it is, and don't beat yourself up about it too much. Right, straight on to imposter syndrome. So, as probably many of you know, but I want to reiterate, imposter syndrome is the feeling that you get that you're in a place where you don't deserve to be, or that you're going to be found out by the other people, and you're going to be frowned upon. First of all, that's something very common. A lot of people have felt like that at some point in their career. It's more common with juniors, I think, because they don't have that many things in their portfolio, let's say. But it happens to everyone, and it happens at all of the levels. So just know you're not alone. And then something that I like to do is speak with other people about it, because it's such a common thing. Others might have ways of dealing with that situation, which I think it's very good. You can learn from others, you can support each other. And another thing that helps me a lot is reading about it. This helps with any subject, obviously, but especially when it's something like an irrational response that my brain does to me. I find this quite satisfying to catch when I'm panicking or when I'm thinking these thoughts, because I know they're actually just a reaction, a panicked reaction of my brain. So it helps me get over it, and I do recommend reading about it. So, pretty straightforward, I would expect, settling in. These are tips that are just saying be friends with the people around you. But I do think that it's good to make an effort to do some of these things. So, first of all, desk decoration. People like different levels of desk decoration. I think it's very nice to have things around your desk that makes you feel more at home, or like in a familiar place, a place that you can do your work and feel surrounded by the stuff you love. It's also a very good conversation starter. If one of your colleagues comes around your desk, they can see your favorite game figurine and they know a little bit more about you. And then the next time, maybe outside of work, you have a conversation and they say, oh, I thought I saw this figurine of such and such character, and I also love that game. So I think it's good from multiple points of view to have some desk decoration. Join groups. These are specifically hobby groups. We have, for example, a tabletop role-playing group at our company, but all the companies have different groups, and depending on the size, you're going to find more and more groups of different hobbies. And if there isn't a group for the hobby that you have, and you find other people that want to join you, there's no reason why you couldn't start your own group and get together with your colleagues. And the last one is get to know your colleagues. This goes with the join groups, but I think it's very important that you spend some maybe one-to-one times where you ask them more about what they do in their job, and you get to know a little bit of the people who you work with, because when you know them a little bit better, you'll be more comfortable working with them, obviously, because you know them as people. So I know that was quite a lot of information, and I know that some of you are students right now, and you're still working on achieving the next step, which is getting hired. But I hope that some of this just taught you a little bit about office etiquette and about how to get into your spot at your new job, and good luck to everyone. Thank you for coming here and listening to me. And if you have any questions, please email me at the email you see on the screen. I'm going to try my best to respond to all of them. If you want to check out my company, that's the link for our website. And if you want to check out the game that I've been working on for a while now, you can check out Ready Chef Go on Snapchat. Thank you again for being here, and hopefully I'll see you soon.